Hello, everyone, and welcome to Market Pulse with NFT18, where we analyze and break down the latest market trends with Zoup, co-founder of Non-Fungibles and the new advanced analytics studio, NFT18. Zoup, thank you so much for joining us once again today.
Thank you, man. Thank you for the invitation. Yeah, I mean, actually, it's a pretty cool appointment we have every month now. So really happy to be there.
Yeah, definitely look forward to it. A lot of people tell me they check the restream and check it multiple times to get everything that we're talking about here. So I'm glad to hear people are getting that alpha and getting some insights that they're not getting elsewhere. We do this every time. Just for anyone that's not familiar, you yourself, long-term member of the NFT space, crypto space as well. And we're doing things way back 2017, 18, 19. I see pictures of you talking to people and introducing a room of like 4 people that were interested in NFTs. We've certainly come a long way and always been at the forefront of analytics. In fact, helped Whale early in its coalescence and coming together with all the community around NFT. So long-standing member of the analytics kind of minds in the NFT space, and certainly a very cool new project of yours, taking that to an advanced level with NFT 18.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? You already wrapped things up. That's me in a nutshell.
Hey, man, and there's a lot of other cool nuance too, because you are definitely part of the culture. I will say that. One thing that kind of irks a lot of the people in the community is when, you know, someone's talking to them about the space, what's going on, what's important, how we're moving. They're not really, you know, they don't really have the background in it, let alone the participation. So cool to see that you walk the walk in addition to talking the talk. So
Yeah.
man, I'm excited to chop it up because, you know, there's the joke, hey, you know, 30 days in the NFT space or crypto space is like a year. This is accelerated. Like, dude,
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel like 1 week has been like a quarter. So much is changing so rapidly right now because of where we are in the cycle. So I know you got a lot to cover and to talk about here.
Mhm.
2 things that I saw that you guys were doing that I want to ask you about. Number one, we touched on your annual report last time, right?
Yep.
So there was the annual report for all of 2013. I mean, 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2023. And we talked about some of the insights there, but on your Twitter, it looked like that you guys were kind of doing a deeper dive and pulling some more information out of there. So anything you want to cover out of that deeper dive into 2023, some key or surprising learnings there, as well as what you saw in January. So you're the master of the reports. Let me know where you want to look first, and we'll dive in.
Now I think that it makes sense to maybe start with a global overview of what happened last year. What are the main takeaways from this curious year that we went through, which is a really super bearish year, and maybe based on the latest trends that we've seen at the end of the year, because we've seen definitely promising trends at the end of 2023. Maybe we can and with where we are right now, because we just published the general report like 2 days ago. So what happened last year? So in a nutshell, I mean, you can probably go directly to the page 9, where you should have the main metrics about the year. Yep. So I would say that the first thing, and it's definitely not a big surprise, it's been a really super bearish year. In terms of trading, basically people lost about $10 billion. It's a lot. Honestly, it's really a catastrophic year in terms of trading, and really purely in terms of trading. But if you look at all the other metrics, the volume of sales, the volume, the average price, yeah, it went down, like really super down. But we just want to have some sort of nuance between what went really super massively down, like the volume traded and the price, which is deeply related. So basically divided, minus 767%. And on the other end, we have seen some metrics that went, I would say, okay for this kind of context. And to be frank, we've been extremely surprised by the number of active wallets last year. About 2 million active wallets. In itself, it doesn't say much, but it's just a decrease of 10%. So it means that despite a super massive decrease in terms of price, a lot of loss, a lot of USD traded less compared to previous year, people remain active. So only 10% of the global community were like, okay, I'm done, it's over. NFTs are not for me. I was not expecting that. I was expecting most of the people, like, I don't know, half of the community to just drop that and leave. But no, it's not the case. So I think that's quite interesting. Is your screen share? So yeah, I think it's quite interesting to see that despite such market condition, the community remained, probably because they've seen some maybe long-term value and not just short-term speculation. So yeah, I would say that's the biggest takeaway.
Interesting. The number of active I'm gonna stop and then reshare this. It looked like some people said they weren't able to see it. I'm interested to know on whether or not the number of active wallets being near flat, relatively, right, down 10% is down 10%, but I'll call that near flat compared to, we're talking billions, or I know we're talking percentage, but the 10 billion stuck in my head, right, down 70%, 30, 40, 60, etc. So down 10%.
It's nothing.
Yeah, that's not a lot, but also a lot of people started participating on other chains. It looks like on other chains. So
that's very good.
No, so I just wonder if if aggregated it would actually be slightly up, or for the most part those are the same participants that are over there experimenting on whether it's Sol or some of the ones that you don't have captured at the moment at the time of these reports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the tricky thing is that it's really hard to know all these different chains, specifically for non-EVM, when someone is just creating a new wallet. So it may, at the end of the day, be the exact same people just going to new chains. So one of the explanation, but technically speaking, we cannot really say right now, is that we may have lost more than 10% of the community, but this could be compensated by people that create new wallets on other chains. For example, someone creating a wallet on Solana or others. So it's a possibility, but unfortunately, we cannot necessarily link all these wallets together through different chains.
Right. Hey, who knows? Maybe we drag some BTC maxis into NFTs.
Definitely.
I'm sure that would be a minuscule portion. I assume. I don't know. You got the data, man. You got the data. All right. So, what else from 2023 is a new inference you were able to pick up over the past month?
So yeah, as you probably know, so only 10 billion, and that's interesting to see that all these people considering that 95% of the NFTs are dead and blah blah blah. It's still about 10 billion traded over a year, and at the end, and that's probably the worst news is this 1 billion loss. And I know it's a tricky one to read, but $1 billion loss at resale. So it's not a surprise. People bought really high at the peak and they tried to resell during all 2023. And they had to accept the loss during all this year because crypto went down, NFTs went super down. So all that together, we went from about 250 million profits 2022 to 1 billion loss. So just imagine people that went from, oh, good, cool, I'm becoming a millionaire, to gosh, I just lost everything.
Well, I feel seen at the. No, I'm just kidding. I think we touched on this a little bit because this number can be deceiving. Certainly, there's some people that would only look at the monetary value of the NFT in USD terms, but in
Yeah.
crypto terms, that could be that they are even, and in some cases, even slightly up. I think we talked about a CryptoPunk sale where the person realized a significant loss. It was like $1 million, but they like doubled in ETH or something, right? And
Yeah.
so if you're a
Right.
long-term believer in crypto and the cyclical nature of it and whatever, that could have been an intentional move. So not just some things to keep in mind, guys, when you look at these numbers and I know people react quickly, but it's always a bit nuanced, right? You have to look at it from different perspectives.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, losing money may be part of a game. They may just accept because they don't really care, or just because they just want to create liquidity, or at the end of the day, just like global strategy. We may not know why people sold at that time for that price. So this is just like a global, really helicopter view of what happened. But there are so many different realities. But yeah, at the end of the day, prices went down. It's a fact.
All right. So anything else from 2023 that you wanted to pluck out of there before we get into what's happening this past month?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the other really interesting metrics, I think we already mentioned that, but it's reconfirmed over the whole year, is that Western countries are not really the hot places anymore. If you go down to a couple of slides, so you have all the metrics per segment. We'll maybe mention that later, but I think it's on page. Let me check that out. 19 and 20. Yep, facts. Yep, the global interest. So I like this one just for one sec. This is basically the global volume of research for NFTs. So we know that we haven't reached out and converted like the 8 billion of people in the world to NFTs. So we still have people that try to discover what are NFTs every day. What is interesting is that despite this massive, massive decrease, where we went from 100, which is the peak according to Google Trends, to a relative metric of 6, it went from 1 in 2021 to 6. So if we just take a bigger picture, of course, we went from 100 in something like May 2022 to 6. But from my standpoint, and I'm there since 2018, we basically made 6x more compared
Right.
to when we began.
Yeah, up whatever 500 600% versus where you were before. So ideally that roller coaster keeps tearing up, right? And we always joke about that here, like that the mainstream media loves, especially with Bitcoin, to say the narrative with the
Yeah.
recency bias, right? Like Bitcoin is down 30% because it went from whatever 40 back to like,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? And then you're like, yeah, rewind 2 years when it was $3,000, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever it is, right? Like you're up astronomical. So taking
Yeah.
that broader perspective is interesting. So one of my peers here that I do a show with frequently on kind of the culture of the NFT
Uh-huh.
space, Wes, who's also our director of art. He always likes to use the metric, hey, are my friends calling me yet? Are they calling me like, hey man, like
Yeah.
tell me how to get into the, how can I buy some Bitcoin? And he's like, they're not calling me yet. And I'm like, well, I got a few that are like kind of poking around, like, oh yeah, we got to talk about that. So like they're starting for me, but from an NFT perspective, because this is about NFTs. I don't think
Yeah,
any of them.
definitely.
I don't think any of them have told me. A couple of them be like, "Oh, you still do that?" Like with surprise. But what I have seen is like I'm active in crypto trading still, like I always have been since, for a long time. And randomly people will pop into the telegrams or the chats where people are just talking about, different coins and tokens or whatever. They're like, tell me how to do stuff with NFTs. So I'll just say that a sprinkling out there of some rekindled interest. I'm starting to see it, but that's that's not the data. That's anecdotally. But I like to say that I think we're going to see a rekindling of interest soon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, honestly, that's a really smart and interesting metric. How many people reach out to me to ask me news about crypto and NFTs? Recently, crypto, I've a lot of people, my brother and others, reaching out to me like, hey, what's up about crypto? Is it a good time to put money in?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, during the time they should is when they're like, yeah, and then they think about it, and then at the pico top is when we get a lot of requests on how to set things up, and I'm like, I'm hands off, Fred. I'm hands
Yeah.
off right now, buddy. You're on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you just go to the next page, that's where I think there is something really interesting, and it's just a teasing, but we discovered something quite big about that. As you can see now, the biggest countries that are really into NFTs are no more the Western countries, as I told you. It's mostly Asia, Southeast Asia, and of course Nigeria, always there. So we have China, Laos, and others. But what is really interesting, if you go to the next page, we have the top and the flop countries, the one that really gained or lost interest. And so the one that lost interest the most are from basically all over around the world. So Hong Kong was super hard, but basically lost complete or most of its interest into it. But Laos, Nepal, Japan, Bangladesh, these are places that are basically getting into NFTs right now. And we are working on a super deep dive analysis of a Chinese project that made 12,000 ETH in volume recently in a couple of weeks. And this is only China and Asian community. We almost haven't heard about this project in Western countries because it's really like it's splitting in two sides. We have our own project and they are building their own stuff with their own influencers. And of course, it's in Chinese. So there is a barrier language as well.
Yeah, did you want to, because you kind of teased that for me. Did you want to dig into that a little bit now, or jump to that at the end?
Oh, maybe at the end, but I can tell you the name of a project because I see you already have some tabs, but it's Nobody. The Nobody
Okay.
project is extremely interesting, and that's basically the next report we'll be publishing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's talk about that at the end, because when I started looking at it, I'm like, what? How did I not see this and know this? This is wild. But let's save some time at the end for that.
It's huge. So yeah, so that's, I would say, one of the big takeaways. Maybe one of the latest one is about the place of the different segments. And I would say that art is the one that suffered the most, and they lost basically 17% of their market share. So you probably, let me check that out. It's on page 21. On page 21, you have actually the distribution of market share per segment between 2022 and 2023. And you know what? I keep saying that collectibles are over, that the cycle of collectibles is done. But come on, no. Collectibles are still 3/4 of the market.
Right.
So yeah, but art suffered a lot, yeah.
I think, and we've touched on this before, but I think we're gonna have to, at some point, as a culture, kind of rethink the categorization of collectibles, because there's a lot of stuff in there, right? Like PFPs with comic books,
Yes.
and even within what we traditionally have called PFPs as collectibles is just something that's flipped and things like that. There's some that are really trying to drive some different community functions and utility, and ties into and ways that it ties into art. And I think we'll see that in this cycle that's coming up, because a lot of people have taken the bear to build out some interesting things. For example, can you really call pudgy penguins and what they do, from a push perspective, to their game about to launch, to their IP usage, that's not just talk, right? They're literally in retail stores. Like, literally, Mini Knight got a little penguin blind igloo in his stocking from Santa Claus, right? Is that the same as whatever, rando animal? Things I think are going to further segment within that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the tricky thing with collectibles because most of them, let's be honest, most of them started with no value proposition or almost no value proposition except being part of a club, which is cool, but nothing concrete. But as they've been so massive, so fast, and they made a lot of money, they now develop actual value proposition and they become real IP, just like Marvel in itself has no value proposition. But Marvel historically has been a comic and then is now movies and a lot of toys and video games and everything you can imagine. But
Right.
it's basically the same case. Like Marvel in itself could be just a collectible, but now it's like way more than that. And it's
Right.
what's happening.
Hey man, if Kevin and Pixelmon could do what they're doing right now, which is it's just a crazy comeback story. It's still wild to me to wrap my head around. Then who knows? Who knows, right? So, but yeah, art definitely took a hit, a significant hit in 2023. I'd be keen to hear what
Yeah.
you're seeing when we get to the January numbers. If this is shifting a little bit with momentum.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think maybe we can switch to the January report. So what are the big takeaways from January? I mean, I would say if you were expecting something like a massive bull run, like everything going 10x again, no, sorry, it's not going to happen. But it's more like we have this kind of, it's really, I consider that as some sort of a rising tide. Sometimes you have this wave and it go down a little bit and it go up a little more than the previous one. That's exactly what we have right now. So the main metric, which is really positive in January, is that people lose less money than before. So on a monthly basis, what we have seen is about 24 million loss. It's still a lot, but way less than before. On a monthly basis, we used to have about 60 million. Yep, that's the right one. Perfect. So we used to have about 60 million loss per month. In January, it's getting better and better and better. Of course, the price of crypto has an impact on that, as we've seen, but the global market is, having up and downs. So less money lost, a lot less. But in terms of trades, active wallets, active collections, USD traded, there's nothing like, global momentum or positive momentum right now. It's definitely too soon. So our analysis of that is that there is a recovery, there is a global market recovery, but it's not something you can see on a monthly basis. You definitely have to take a step back and compare where we are right now compared to where we were 6 months ago or 3 months ago. And you'll see that it's globally getting better. But I think, and that's basically one of the takeaways as well from this report, is that we'll probably stop issuing this kind of reports on a monthly basis because I think the scale is probably not the right one. We'll probably go back to something like quarterly or maybe when really something happens because we prefer to give people a global vision of what's going on. And on the monthly basis, you may be fooled. If you just look at all these metrics, it's not a recovery. Everything is going bad, like really bad. So yeah, I think it's a matter of scale, getting the right scale.
Yeah, I mean, we have the benefit of context, having done this monthly and being
Yeah,
actively looking at this all the time. But sure, like if you're a reporter, hey, what's going on in the NFT space, and you look at that, it's definitely not going to tell you the story. But
yeah,
given the context, we do have what was interesting to me to see for January, and we know now we're 2 weeks into February, and we saw that what we had predicted is happening, which is continued momentum, right?
yeah.
But the contraction in number of trades in January, yet the same amount of USD traded. So less trades, more volume, like more. So that means higher average transaction happening. That coincides with less active wallets. So the people that were active were feeling more confident or having things that were more enticing to them to spend more, to spend more of their dollars because less wallets basically equivalize the volume to last period, right? So
Supposed to, yeah.
that's interesting to me. The other thing that was interesting to me at a glance is this we talked about this before. So many collections launched that 99% of NFTs get abandoned or dead or whatever. Continued contraction here of collections. So
Yes.
down another 27%. That's a big number. Like, this is at the end of a huge
Yeah.
bear run. Well, I mean, I don't want to call the end of the bear market, but clearly at the end of 2023 as a year,
Yeah.
was a lot of negative momentum, and an additional 30% contraction. Like, if we continued at that rate, which I can't imagine we can, but if we continued at that rate, so next week it's going to be 9,000, then 6,000. Like, clearly that can't happen, right?
No. So, I think that we may have a lot of up and downs on this kind of metric for the volume of active collections. So I just want to remind everyone what is the definition of an active collection. It means that we've seen at least one trade, one asset being sold from this collection during the period analyzed, so during the past month. And a lot of collections are super illiquid. So just because some people discover new collections, we may have just 1,000 people making so many collections alive again. So this is just, once again, something that may have to be analyzed from a broader scale than just 1 month. But yeah, I feel like we will see some more collections dying because they haven't really thought about their value proposition. They maybe haven't thought about what they could become if the market goes back. And just because, it's the life of startup as well. So I think we'll see some new projects dying, but it's no big deal. And I don't think we'll see this kind of decrease, like 9,000 and 6,000 and so on. I don't think this will happen.
Yeah, I don't either. One thing I've been thinking about, and we talked about this a little bit about the evolution, where they are in their evolution phase as far as NFT markets on other chains. And I think there's specific cultures to the chain on whether it's primarily gaming or PFPs or even having an art-centric culture like Tezos. But I do think there's an expense associated with Ethereum that is not so much an issue with some of these alternative chains. And so I think that when we saw last cycle on ETH, like, there was a name the animal, name the attribute, let's spin up a PFP collection, right? Like, whatever, like toxic snakes, like, you just name it, right? And so but now that's, they can do that, and there's liquidity on alt chains where it doesn't have the initial outlay of cost. So I wonder if we'll see less of that on Ethereum as we enter this next cycle, just because if you're going to be opportunistic and minimize your outlay, you would do it on a chain where it's just pennies to mint and launch a huge collection instead of thousands of dollars, right? So perhaps that's the case. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I definitely feel like we'll see some evolution in terms of the kind of assets being traded as well. And probably less valuable or just cheaper assets, not less valuable, just cheaper assets, but maybe with a lot more use case. I think one of a good example is probably Axie Infinity. That definitely had this cycle of assets being traded for super crazy price, like $300 per Axie, and now it's something like $2 per Axie. But I would say this is the normal price because you should not have to pay $1,000 to enter a game, but just $6. That's a good price. And if you want to have really a lot of Axies to play a lot of combinations, maybe you will go up to $20. And for a lot of people around the world, that's a decent budget. So that's the kind of cycle we are in right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, Whale Shark has been going hard on gaming, and he made a comment, something to the effect of, he's been playing a lot of big time among other games, and someone said, I forgot, they threw a price out there for something that seems illogical like that, right? Like you're talking right now about a gaming asset like that should be $5, which makes sense, right? And someone was like, hey, could this achieve whatever price it was? I don't know, $1,000, $5,000. And he's like, absolutely. And if you think that it can't, you've never been here during a bull run. Does it make sense? Should it be that? Should it be that value? No. Is it possible or likely that it would achieve it? Yes. Yes, because the market gets irrational at the time. So,
Yes.
that definitely in line with what you're saying right there. Got a comment on the Discord from Mongoose saying that he felt that the NFT peak as far as value on the NFT market and what people were pushing lagged the peak of the crypto market. So there was kind of a capital rotation, and probably that's what we'll see here as well during this cycle.
Yeah, I think so. There is this kind of notion of collectibles is super tricky, but everything can be a collectible. And just look at normal traditional market. Should Charizard golden card worth, I don't know, like 500,000 or crazy prices like that? Should it be? I don't know. I mean, who am I to tell you what price it should have? I can just tell you that offers and demand made that price. So some people are ready to pay for this at that price. And if that's the same for some real estate market, just because some wealthy crazy guy can buy my house for 1 million, and a lot of them may want to buy all the other houses around mine for 1 million. Okay, the prices will go up, but okay, I'm just probably lucky. But it's just people able to create this kind of market, this kind of price, and it may go up and down. Specifically for this kind of hyped assets, it may go up and down super quick, and it doesn't matter if it's worth it or not.
Yeah, someone put a picture of an ether rock in there to just make the point. So
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah, definitely. That's exactly it. And maybe that's a good transition toward the topic of nobodies. But does these NFTs, these collectibles, are worth that price? I don't think so right now. This is mostly.
Yeah. No. I want to talk about nobodies, and I don't want to say I agree with you. I don't want to flood anyone's bag. So like we'll talk about the numbers. But before we dive into nobodies,
yeah,
a little bit more in January, can we talk about the subsegments? Any observations from like when you go down through art, collectibles, etc.?
Yeah, sure. So honestly, it's been it's basically more or less the same trend that what we've seen in December is that collectibles are still super massive, mostly because of these blue chips, the big blue chips again in value. But on the other end, this global trend of things going down is something that we've seen on almost all our projects. I would say what is interesting is that some projects like utilities and gaming are almost balanced. So it means that people are almost not losing money anymore buying or reselling these assets. So they probably went back to the price that let's say normal price, or what people consider as normal price. So my analysis is that all the hype is over around utilities. Most of the hype is over around gaming. We still have some hype around virtual worlds, but basically most of that is now the dust has settled. So it's maybe time to rebuild something now. So is it the end of a bear market? I hope so. We have some signals.
Yeah, and we just touched on the market momentum can be a little bit divergent, or like the timing can be a little bit different. The crypto market versus the NFT market. Traditionally, a lot of us would guess that there would be a lag, right? When people feel comfortable with their profits and then rotating it into something else. Like I say anecdotally in some of my other shows, like we have creators that are like, hey, I see all people buying ether rocks and crypto punks and all this, these gains. Where's that liquidity rotating back into art? We could talk about that down the line. But what I say is, sometimes I'm not whale shark. I'm not sitting on, Lord knows how much. I'm not sitting on a pile and diving in and swimming like Scrooge McDuck. I need to I need to make wins to be able to then take that profit and put it into stuff that I just love and dime in hand. But I also need to take a piece of that and put it into fit with down the line, right? Yeah. So like as those things progressively happen, then I'm more like comfortable to be able to branch out into some other things. And so that's just me, but we'll see if the market kind of follows the same trend.
You're not the only one. Honestly, from all the patterns we've seen, that's basically how people react. Only a handful of people can just accept the loss and be like, okay, this is what it is. I'll move to something else. No, most people have to get an influx of real, let's say, real world money to play with NFTs and crypto because they may not be crypto rich. There's only a handful of crypto rich in this space. They are definitely massive and they can create momentum out of nothing, but there's just a handful of them. Just one last metric I wanted to mention about the different segments is that it's interesting to see that even if a profit and loss is still globally negative, so people keep losing money on most of or all the segments, but the percentage of profitable trades is positive. So there are more profitable trades than trades of people losing money. So what it means is that the global trend is that you have more chance basically to win money if you resell an NFT right now in all segments. But if you are unlucky enough to resell something that you bought during the bull market, you will lose a lot. So people win not a lot, just a little bit of money at each resell, but there is a lot of profitable resell.
I find that an interesting correlation to the crypto market because from an FA perspective, and this isn't technical analysis, and this isn't really, this is just kind of, I guess, theory of people that are active traders. And a lot of them would tell you that, look, if you want the best opportunity for success right now, probably it behooves you to pay attention to what the current narratives are, what's exciting and new right now, because that will attract the most attention, the most liquidity, and the most opportunity. Whereas investing in something that, was a token that launched 4 years ago and has robust fundamentals may not have the same short-term runway. Now, there's always exceptions to the rule, something that's astronomical and can catch fire or has some part, but for the most part, that's kind of a narrative. And what you just described is something similar, right? New stuff, you have an opportunity to flip for profit, but people that are holding a lot of legacy stuff doesn't mean you can't, just mean you might be waiting a little bit longer.
No, absolutely. And I just read something that has been posted in the chat about if you can't afford it, don't spend it, and just buy what you love and what you can afford. I mean, if people just follow that advice, we would not see this kind of metrics right now. What we see right now is just unrealistic expectations. And if you go back to the main on page 8 about the evolution of the floor price, I would say this is probably one of the most concerning metric that we see in January. Floor price decreasing by 25%. It means that when we've seen this kind of upswing at the end of last year, most people consider that, oh gosh, the market is back. I can list my assets for that price. I'm sure I will make money. And we're like, oh gosh, no, the market is not there yet. So, oh, come on. So there is still this kind of unrealistic expectations and greed. And I'm still convinced that we need to get rid of most of this greed. It will not disappear right now, but we need to get rid of that to build something healthy. And as long as we'll see this kind of market trends and flow going like this, it means that people are still too greedy.
So I noticed that this takes the top 100 collections, which is good
Yes.
because it gets rid of a lot of noise that could be outside of this. And this
Yes.
comparison, so this negative 24% is versus the previous period, which in this case would be the previous month, right? So
December, right?
the average floor price at the end of December for the top 100 collections was around 3,500 or so, and now it's at like 2,800. I
Yes.
could be off on the math there, but roughly
But
like
that's, yeah,
we're
that's the
losing
game.
some value there. Interesting, and I find that interesting because we obviously have had momentum with the ETF. A lot of people were excited about the prospects of it. I think that we experienced a pullback afterwards, and people were saying it was a sell the news event, etc. And
Mm-hmm.
now we have the benefit of being 2 weeks into this month of seeing how it plays out. But these numbers don't. These numbers are
No.
time stamped right at the end of January. So
Yeah.
it will be interesting to look at the February numbers. I wanted to touch base on one thing you said, and you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned people, taking loans on their NFTs.
Yes.
So the DeFi aspect is new this cycle, right? And I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, I don't really understand how big of an impact that is. Like, what's the participation rate on it? How much? Obviously, it's a small fraction of all the NFT holders, but I would assume it's some of the most valuable NFTs. So from a dollar share perspective, it's probably significant. I'm not even sure I could wrap my head around entirely how
Mm-hmm.
leverage trading impacts the macro crypto market. Tell me how that is making an impact on the market numbers that we're seeing for NFTs right now. If that's not too broad of a question.
Now that's it's not a broad question. It's a complex question at different levels. The first one I would say is from a technical standpoint. We may not we are not yet chain analysis, so we don't have all the circulation of all the crypto. So even if some liquidity is created, the main thing I can tell you is that it creates liquidity. That's the thing. So how does this money is used to buy or to invest into something? Or I don't have this information right now, but we know that this is, from what we've seen, mostly a tool used by degen and wash traders to impact the market and play on new collections. So I'm not, I don't feel like, and from what we've seen, it may not impact the market that much.
Okay.
I don't want to overcommit on that. It's definitely something we need to investigate more, but it's really, this kind of activity is made by traders, for traders, and by degen. So not the whole market is composed of these people. They are the most noisy and visible people, but not all of them. There's a lot of people like you and me that just do their stuff.
Yeah, and I always think of it because I'm not in that realm that often as like, hey, say someone was hard up and needed to take out or could use the resources, right? Could use the liquidity for something temporarily. So they might take out a loan versus their punk or their ape or whatever.
Yeah.
But I've in some strange circles I'm in, I've seen different stuff where people are like, yeah, I'm going to take these 10 high value NFTs, take out a loan on them, take that money, buy this token to go put it in the staking protocol, take that proof of stake and put it into this other. I'm like, man, you have a tangled web that could
Yes.
it seems like a
Yeah.
house of cards to me, but again, I don't play in that realm. They're much more successful than me.
No, and I mean, man, they may be, but they are mostly taking way more risk. And sometimes I'm really like, do these people really know what they do? And I cannot tell you, I'm not in their mind, but what I can tell you is that from everything I've seen in the NFT space so far, and from all the disappointments we've seen, I don't feel like all these newbie traders really know what they do. But yeah, some of them will get lucky and will remember, or at least they will be noisy enough so that we forget all the thousands of people that will just lose the money they have.
Yeah, I mean the influx is coming. The influx is coming,
Yeah.
there's there's positive and negative to that. I want to talk about nobodies before we shift gears a
Yeah.
little bit. Anything else you wanted to call out in the January data?
Let me double check. No, that's basically, yeah, the average price. Oh, yep, maybe you can go really quickly on page. Let me check that out. Oh, was the right page? Blah, blah, blah. No, none of that is new. On page 29, maybe. Um, that's some of the cool stuff we've seen is that, yeah, that's basically the difference between profit and loss. So as you can see in October, it used to be like almost 100 million loss, and right now it's about 25 million. So at the end of the day, it's getting definitely better. And it's interesting to see that this getting shrinked, and potentially these two lines will get inverted soon. And
So wait. I almost feel like I'm gonna throw a random terms here, but when we see this converge, we have our equivalent of the NFT Golden Cross or something going on here.
potentially, yes, potentially.
We will see.
So yeah, we'll see. It's hard to say because it's still quite volatile, and but I feel like potentially February or March we may go back to. And just to give you a point in time, the last time that these two lines were crossed was in May 2022. Was the last time. Since we've seen more loss than profit.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
potentially after the almost 2 years bear market, we'll have something positive
Interesting.
in the
Is that
next few
what you
months.
wanted to call out, or is there additional stuff here?
Sorry, there's one last. On page 27, if you go back to page 27, and that's the last thing I will mention, is, and I think it's really interesting. Yep, you should, yeah, should be the right one. Oh, it's not this one, sorry, it's not buyers and sellers. It's, oh, yeah, average price. Oh, that's weird. It's considered page 28. Well, anyway, okay. So what is interesting there is you have the average price evolution for wash traded assets, suspicious assets, so no pattern, but the wallets are obvious wash traders, and normal sales. And you can see that without any surprise, the average price of wash trading is way, way higher. But as basically there is not that many reward right now for wash trading, it went down. So it went, and it's a logarithmic scale. It's really important to note that it's 1, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. It's not like a linear scale.
Hmm.
So no more rewards. So the average price of water assets go down massively. And honestly, we've seen not that much wash trading early 2024. So maybe we are getting better. Maybe.
This also makes me think when I see these values here in 2023 that the paltry market conditions that we saw were actually much worse.
Yeah.
If you remove the wash trading, then it was really anemic. But I think we all knew that. But this really puts it into scope, right? Right now we're 1/10 of the average wash sale contribution that
Yeah.
we had seen through most of 2023. Crazy, crazy.
Yeah. And that's it for January.
Let's talk about this Nobodies project that
Yeah.
launched. So my understanding is, and then we talked a little bit last week as well, is that part of what you guys are doing over at NFT18 is taking some deeper dives on things and working on some different ways to chop up the market and analytics that you don't typically see. And one of those is kind of looking at specific drops or initiatives that happen in the NFT market and decipher like what was the strategy, what was the
Yes.
approach, like and how did it perform and what can we learn from that, how did the community react and all of that. So this particular
Exactly.
project is one of your first ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've done a couple of that, but this is actually the biggest one we'll be looking at. So, our goal, as I said, is not, and as you said as well, is not only to give a global overview of what happened or where NFTs, but as well to help people get some sort of a playbook of, okay, what are the best practices right now? What is it possible to accomplish? Is this success real or faked? And what are the keys to this success? So that's basically what we are doing right now with Nobody. We spent almost a full week with the whole team working on that to decipher what happened, to going from just the marketing strategy to some really deep dive analysis of the market side of things. And we are still right now working on the market side of things. So let me tell you what this project is all about. And one thing, I don't have any NFT from Nobody. No one from the team has any NFT from this collection. We are not in touch with them. We have not been paid by them. So this is completely neutral. It's important. Nobody is a 10K PFP collection issued by Chinese, Hong Kong-based company called Moonbox. And it's basically hosted, founded by Stephen Chow, which is a super famous actor and director. He has played in a lot of movies that you know. Let me just get you a couple of names. But he has played in Monkey King, Journey to the West, The Mermaid, Crazy Kung Fu, Shaolin Soccer, a lot of others. So what has been interesting is that they sold 10,000 NFTs. So maybe I can share my screen for a second, if you don't mind. Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, cool. Let me share my screen. Okay. So
on the bottom, go to present on our. There you go.
Yeah, should be good. Yeah. So this is still work in progress. So design is not final, but not anything. But what is interesting is that they had 10,000 NFTs to sell. Only 9.5 thousand were actually to sell because part of the supply was reserved for family, friends, investors, and so on. And we can tell you exactly who received these different NFTs and the exact supply and what happened. But what is interesting is that they had a long process of whitelist where you could basically get a chance from September to January, you had a chance to get on the whitelist. Then for 24 hours, you had to deposit funds if you were on the whitelist or not. And that's important. And basically what happened is that they received 16 money from 16,000 wallets instead of the 9.5 thousand. So they knew ahead of time, before the drop, they knew that they would sell out, which is interesting. So this represents about $8.3 million captured in 48 hours. Then all the whitelisted as wallets that made the deposit received one NFT. And if there is any supply left, there was a raffle for the non-whitelisted wallets that made the deposit. So it's about like 4.5 thousand wallets that made the deposit. Oh, sorry, let me get you the exact metric. So I'm not saying anything wrong. It's oh, sorry. This one, yep, this one. So yeah, actually it's 8.3 million dollars generated. And so they had a whitelist of 9,000 wallets. About 9,000 made the deposit. And so it means that only a handful of people, like 6% of all these public wallets, so from this, 7,000 wallets, only 500 of them would receive an NFT, and the others will get a refund. So they knew, and that's why it's really smart. They knew that basically about 7,000 wallets that have not received the NFT had their money ready to buy. And all these people and this money ready to buy was basically used on the secondary market. This is why they sold out, and I will tell you why they sold out. But this is why after selling out at 0 point. Let me get you a figure, a price. It was at 0.19 ETH. Okay, and they sold out, and then the price pumped instantly, just because they had this kind of supply of people ready to buy, which is really cool. So, do you know why they sold out? Because they had a really super smart marketing campaign. Sorry for the design. The designer will work on that right after. This is like a total sneak peek. No one has seen that yet. So they raised about 2.5 million. Sorry. Yeah. You wanted to say something?
No. I'm just I was just wowed by some of these figures that I'm seeing. Go ahead, Zoup.
So they raised 2.5 million by OKX Venture in July. They basically created all the stuff, Twitter, Instagram, and so on, in August. In September, they've really started to communicate on Discord and social media. And so from that, they had their global whitelist thing with influencers and so on, like quite basic and common things. And then they moved in a really super smart move. So the whitelist campaign, okay, it's fine, nothing really new there. They created a video clip for nobody that has been published in December, made by a DJ that I didn't know, to be honest, MCG, that has about 500,000 followers on Instagram. It has been published on Stephen Chow Instagram, 1.5 million followers. Normal. Then, and that's where the real magic begins, they add this global phase of unique numbered physical golden cards issued to, we don't know how many, but something like maybe 50, 60 different VIPs. All of these VIPs, basically, they received a physical card just like that. And they posted that on their Instagram, on their Twitter, on everywhere. And of course, the project relayed that. So you have 60 people with between like 500,000 to 1 million followers that were like, oh, thanks to Stephen Chow and nobody, I received that card signed by Stephen Chow himself. That's the first thing. And then, because it was not enough, it was not enough to have that, they've launched the partners. The partners are 12 projects that supported them. And these 12 projects have in total, it's there, they have in total 5.4 million total audience. And among them, you have OKX, Memeland, CyberConnect, more covers. For example, Memeland has about 2.5 million audience. All of that combined, the VIPs, the whitelist, all these super massive partners. And if you have OKX, that obviously have invested into them, plus Memeland, you have the CEO of 9gag that is supporting you, and you know he will buy some assets. That's basically the security they offer to their buyers. And that's kind of huge. Honestly, with all of that combined, I'm almost surprised that it has not risen up even more.
And I think I saw that they had other media partners, like they partnered with a rapper that's big in China as well.
Yeah,
they did a lot of things. And the thing that comes to mind is OKX has quickly come in, and I thought at first it would be an afterthought, like an exchange adding NFT capabilities, whatever. But we've seen it even here at the whale community. Even with Whale Shark's subs talking about they're buying gaming assets that are launching on OKX specifically, and they were all chains. Like I believe one of them was on AVAX. Like there was a lot of different stuff going on. So they've really cultivated a strong consumer base there for NFTs that's kind of outside of the scope of whatever we're familiar with. Like when I look at that volume, when I look at volume, like we're almost 13,000 ETH right now, and this wasn't even something I was talking or thinking or had visibility to where I am in the West. That is wild.
Yeah.
you could have that type of success without the West's participation, even. So whoever can unlock, and I don't know what it is because many people have tried, but whoever could get the unlock to get joint participation from from both markets,
Yes.
it's huge. And then the other thing that jumps out to me is I've seen a lot of projects, that have tried to leverage some Asian culture and get tap a little bit of a different audience, right? Obviously, Azuki had tried it early with some of the stuff they were doing with anime and whatnot, but like projects like Dokyo, Dokebi, talking about some of the Korean lore and culture there, like that's something that I'm seeing more cross pollination in, and I'm just wondering when that's just going to converge into one global market. But who knows? Because I would say this at this point, even the crypto markets, at least from where I'm sitting, my understanding is they can be very divergent because of accessibility and just what tokens and what narrative resonates with Asia versus what does in the West.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the expectations are not the same. I think the maturity is not the same. And I feel like they are living their bull run on their own. And honestly, I'm just curious about what's going on and the kind of narrative they have about crypto and NFTs. I don't really know, but from what I've seen, it's a complete different community, and so many wallets entered the space just for them, just because of Stephen Cho.
Right.
And because they find it's interesting, even if there is no value proposition, the utility is you may co-create, you may vote for the next movies. That's it.
Right. Mongoose was mentioning in the chat when we were in NFT LA, Whale was out there last year with a big presence. We had essentially the art gallery there. We were the core sponsor. OKX had a huge presence. When you went in, they had a massive booth, and they'd staff like 10 people, but I believe they had a gotcha machine that anyone could go up to and kind of, I guess, playing on what a lot of the NFT drops that I've seen on a lot of the Asian focused NFT markets, whether it's Binance or whatever, has been a lot of blind boxes, a lot of blind packs opportunities or commemorative things that have to do with culture. So yeah, I'm super intrigued. Maybe that's something that you guys will come out at some point, Zoup, is kind of, hey, the Eastern NFT market, here's kind of the key things on what moves people, what motivates them, and how that community works. That'd be awesome.
That's basically what we are looking at, and we are doing a lot of exploratory work on, okay, what happened, who are these people, what are the, and there are some things that are really not finished in terms of global trends and all this stuff, but we know that the bulk of the activity was on Blur, which is not what we expected, to be honest, but it's by far mostly on Blur. And the projects that we've seen, so people, that's the ownership of what of the top of the whole community. So we know that among the so that like 9,000 global community members, and we know that it's mostly projects. To be honest, I didn't know of a studio of Zoup. I didn't know this project. Baby Burn, I didn't know this one either. I'm not maybe expert of everything, but there are so many projects I've never heard of. Tenjin is quite huge.
Right.
And
yeah, wild.
yeah, Digos, okay, that's a big one. Azuki is big, but for most of them, I was like, okay, what are these projects? And I had to check on them.
Interesting. So like this report, it looks like you guys are still working on it. Is that going to be part of the suite of reports that are available on NFT 18 if people are looking to get a more in-depth look at what's going on?
Yes, absolutely. So what I've showed you there is really just a draft. So we are still working on that. There's a lot of things that we want to explore. But yeah, it's something that will be published on NFT 18. And from now on, the goal is basically to keep issuing some global market reports as we used to, but get some really super deep dive research on certain drops for people to understand how this project did, and is this success legit or not?
Awesome.
That's cool.
Well, I'm sorry, Zoop. I knew I just realized the time. I've kept you over our time, and I know you're a busy
Oh
dude.
gosh.
So my apologies there. I can't let you go without at least asking a few of these
Yeah.
questions that have been DM'd to me from the community. If you got a couple minutes.
Sure, please.
Okay, the first one here is airdrop season is upon us. It looks like it will be going forward. A lot of VC capital put towards a lot of these new blockchains to try to incentivize people to use and reward people that were there, even for protocols that are very utilitarian. What
Yeah.
does that mean for NFTs?
But I have my own feeling about that. It may act as the DeFi summer that we had. So it may have a massive impact on NFTs. If we recall things correctly, we had a DeFi summer in 2020. Yeah, I think it was 2020. And then we moved to the NFT craze in 2021 because so much money has been printed by the DeFi summer. And it's possible that these act the same way. And that with all these new airdrops, we'll see with Eigenlayer, with a frame, and all these other drops we may have in the next few months, that we have a massive influx of money, which could definitely help having a new kind of cycle for NFTs.
That's awesome. I think that's the answer that they probably wanted to hear. So shout out to whoever asked that question. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. This is an interesting one. Ether rocks. We all saw the headline. We all saw the people being upset about how I think it was Christie or Sotheby's kind of portrayed its importance in history. Either way, the sales were there. Subsequent sales were there. So NFT archaeology. Will that be another thing that ends up being a narrative, you think, coming into this next bull cycle? Will people be dredging up some projects and saying, hey, this has got whatever historical importance because of where it was in the past? Do you think that's something we'll see again?
Yeah, definitely. You know what? It's already the case. I know some collectors comparable to Whale Shark that are only looking for old projects. I may mention one that is quite famous, but is really something, or two of them. Pepes on Bitcoin and data. Everything made by data, the creeps and weirdos. That's definitely the kind of projects that are made right now for true OGs that are looking for something that were before or right at the same time than CryptoPunks. Because it's more like if you want something exclusive, now issuing NFTs is not that exclusive. Everyone can do it. But
Right.
something exclusive is owning something that has been issued way before everything else. This is exclusive. And there is no way to issue something new from that time. And I know
No,
collectors looking only for that.
some nice alpha there. Some nice alpha. I think there's not many people on the same stature as Whale Shark. So I'm gonna do some wallet hunting later. See what I can find. See if I can find traces of the trail. I'll make this the last one because this is an interesting one, and it's above my head. I don't even know how to wrap my head around it yet. So that's the question. How will ERC 404s impact NFTs?
Oof. Oof. Oh my gosh, yeah. That's a tricky one. So first thing about the archaeology I wanted to mention, sorry, one last thing I wanted to mention about archaeology. It's super tricky to discover them because they usually are not ERC 721, but ERC 20. So it's even more complex to find them. What about ERC 404? I must confess I haven't dived super deep into this one, but from what I've seen, it's a crazy interesting tool that is basically going to create a lot of liquidity. I feel like more projects will feel like they have to issue a token to basically have this liquidity between the NFT and the token, even if in most cases it's probably not mandatory to issue a token. So I feel like this, now this is a degen tool for me. There's probably some super concrete use case, but they may be a bit complex right now. So I feel like all the projects that will use that to begin with will be super degen projects. So probably for 6 months, we'll see like pure, speculation around that. And maybe down the road, when the dust will settle, we'll have some massive concrete use case. But just like you, I haven't wrapped my head right now around this concept. So I'm like, okay, why not? But is there like a real use case? Probably. I just don't get it right now.
Yeah, it's still early, and I'm sure someone will come along and have something amazing. But at this point, it's still early to figure it out. Here's a
Yeah.
simple yes or no question someone had sent in
Yep.
for you. I don't know if they're judging you. I don't know what their I don't know what their motivation is. But the question is, Zoup, do you or do you not own an ordinal?
I do not.
He does not. He does not. Let it be known. Let it be known, folks. Zoup, I have
Do
some other
whatever
ones
you want
coming.
with this information.
Yeah, I don't know. What are they going to do with it? They're going to send you? I don't know. I got some other ones, but they're more kind of philosophical. So I'll shelve those for our next meeting, so you can get on to the next thing that you got to do with those amazing reports. Thank you so much for sharing not only the data that you guys do, but the alpha. My goodness, you dropped some gems in this one. If anyone combs through it, there's some really, really dope stuff for people to check out. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure, my man. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much, Nightmare.